Welcome to our community conversation on climate change as we prepare to participate in the Conference of Parties 27 Summit that will be held November the 6th through the 18th of this year in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. The Conference of the Parties is an arm of the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, and its job is to work toward, at the governmental level, solutions to the carbon footprint on the planet. Today, we will engage community leaders who are engaged in creating, developing, and implementing community-based solutions to climate change. You know, sometimes we are always talking at the high level, policy level. We're talking about cap and trade. We're talking about all of the terminology like carbon footprint. And often we overlook the small ways in which we can make a change. So this morning, we are going to talk a little bit about how we on the ground are moving the needle toward addressing the impacts on a local level of climate change. We have a group of committed, dedicated, boots on the ground leaders and soldiers that are working at every level to make sure that the voice of those who are impacted the most is heard the loudest. So we want to welcome everybody this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be very informal. This is going to be truly and indeed a conversation. This conversation is being shared through the pre-summit on COP that is being organized by the HBCU, Historically Black Colleges and Universities Green Fund, hosted at Clark Atlanta University under the leadership of Dr. Felicia Davis. So again, thank you so much for my panelists. We're going to go ahead and jump right in and get started. Today, our question is, what are you doing at the local level? What kind of solution are you providing that will help ameliorate, help to deal with the changes that we are seeing on a daily basis, especially in coastal towns and rural cities, in big cities all over the planet, both in the United States, in the global South, in Africa, in Europe, in island state communities. We are fighting for our lives, but we're doing something about it. So I want to kick this conversation off this morning with Reverend Michael Malcolm from the great state of Alabama. And I'm going to ask him to talk a little bit about his work and what they're trying to do to combat the impacts of climate change. Reverend Malcolm.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. McLean. It is a pleasure to be with you and so many of you all who are on this panel who I know and love dearly. So with the People's Justice Council, as well as Alabama Interfaith Power and Light, but more so with the People's Justice Council, since founding the People's Justice Council, we had a focus internationally to connect the local impacts that we feel in community, both locally and globally. We understand that the impacts that are felt domestically here at home are also felt abroad, and even more so. And we lack investment, both in interest and in interest. And by interest, I mean, we don't have the discussion around the local impacts of climate devastation to community, nor do we have the investment financially in dealing with the loss and damage that these communities feel. And it's happening right now, and it's happening to those who are of the diaspora. And by those of the diaspora, I mean not just Black diaspora, but also the brown, also the indigenous, also the poor, in those rural communities. Those rural communities feel the impact that we feel, the impact that are felt globally are also felt here at home in our rural communities. There are places in our rural communities that don't have water right now. Matter of fact, you don't have to look too far. You can look in Jackson, Mississippi to see that the lack of investment that is felt at home is also that lack of investment that is felt in our global South, and not just global South, but our global diaspora, because our folk aren't just located in the South, they're in the global South, they're located throughout. And no matter where you are, a determinant of our environmental health and our health in particular is our skin color.
A great way to open up the conversation. I'm just going to move it right along. Dr. E from Atlanta, Dr. Erica, introduce yourself and tell us what is it that you're doing on the local level to address climate change impacts. Oh, and the new chief is Officer of Sustainability in Atlanta, Georgia, the chiefess. Yay! Wonderful. We are so excited that one of our own has emerged in the top leadership that is addressing all of these questions around climate change, sustainability, equity. Our own Chandra Farley, who in the next 6 years will be our Public Service Commissioner representing the voice of the people. Welcome, my chiefess.
Love y'all, thank you.
So real quickly, this is what we've been doing in the front lines here in Atlanta, Georgia, making sure that we are organizing, following the path and the blueprint that has already been laid, because there's no need to waste time in the urgency that we control of this moment, meaning don't waste no time planning no more. We are implementing plans that come from the front line, solutions that come from the front line, like today. Today, we are at the Outdoor Activity Center, the second urban food forest now, as we address food insecurities. One of the trifecta of insecurities as we talk about the impacts of climate change. Bottom line, climate change is only going to make worse what already exists. Things like life expectancy differences here in Atlanta, south of I-20 versus north of I-20 being 12 to 24 years, not months. So climate change impacting that, it's going to make it worse. And so we're working here with young people, making sure that they have a foundation of the historical background of environmental justice, as we've now splintered into all these new justice moments, which are needed. And in their silos, they come back to a connected history of movement. And so as you see with our new chief sustainability officer for the city of Atlanta, we continue doing and following the path that have been laid. We are really excited to talk about a capital of the coast as we connect now. So grateful that Atlanta has great leadership. We've waited, we've been organizing to connect our capital back to our coast as we talk about this movement for us. So much more. I'm not going to take too much time. Y'all know the good doc likes to talk, but I'm just so grateful to share this moment with the Clean Energy Advisory Youth Ambassador Program here in Atlanta that we have started with the young people that will be gathering as we are here and will join this green conversation today. Thank you all so much.
Excellent. Chiefess, can you come to the camera and talk a little bit about what is it how do you view this whole piece around creating community-based solutions toward these impacts? Give us your view this morning. Come off of mute.
Thank you, Dr. McLean. So first, I just want to talk about divine timing. When I said I couldn't make this morning and I walked in, and of course, Dr. E has it up for our students this morning. And divine timing for me to be in this role of Chief Sustainability Officer after a run for Georgia Public Service Commission. And both of these things really encompass my solutions, or what I think community-based solutions to climate change are, and that is us. That is you. We need our people in seats of decision-making, because we know that the worst impacts of climate change are a result of greed, racism, and a lack of our people in the seats of decision-making that drive the investment, control the money, control the resources that we need to make sure our community-based solutions that we come up with can actually be implemented in the way that they are supposed to be. So that is where I come from, mix of social justice, love for the environment, and my passion really around connecting all of that to our daily lives. So that's why I come from energy. Everybody talks about the light bill, right? But the light bill means that if you're flipping it on, where's that energy coming from? Probably fossil fuels, the same fossil fuels that are polluting our communities, harming our communities, making our people sick, making our utility bills unaffordable. And so we've got to have people in decision-making places, and we have to have the support of our local government leadership and our state level leadership. So all this tidal wave of investment that everybody is really excited about from the federal level comes to the state, comes to our local governments. And we need to be in those rooms, in those conversations, making sure that money is getting to Harambee House, to the Outdoor Activity Center, to the People's Justice Council, to East Point. And the way that we do that, by getting roles like Chief Sustainability Officer, where leadership is depending on me, depending on you, to help them understand where that investment needs to go and why. So I am excited. I know that I am going to be successful in this role because of all of you. I have all the support I need. I have all the connections I need, and even more of them will come from these connections. So I'm grateful to be here this morning, and I look forward to seeing you in person, Dr. McLean, next week. And I look forward to listening in the rest of today.
Harambee means let's pull together. And that's exactly what our new chief this is talking about, that the answer is us. The answer is us. Let us continue in the state of Georgia with Sister Ade from the great city of Fort Valley, who is playing a role on many different fronts. Talk to us a little bit this morning, Sister, about what your view is on community-based solutions to climate change, and talk to us a little bit about what you're doing over there in Fort Valley and with the myriad of organizations that you're working with at this time. Come off of mute.
That would definitely help. Sending love and blessings from the big little city of Fort Valley, Georgia, this morning. And just hearing everything, no matter how we try to run away from it. I know I've tried, I've said it, verbally, I'm not doing this environmental stuff, but environmental and climate issues are truly civil rights issues. It's stepping outside and just breathing is impacting you. And just how Brother Malcolm mentioned Mississippi, and Chandra and Dr. McLean, how you mentioned we talk about these big ideas with policy and local government, but unless we have the people in local government, then the community-based solutions, can't turn into reality. And so I often say that those of us that come up with these community-based solutions, or nonprofits, we are the fourth arm. when it comes to government in the United States. So it's us being out there with boots on the ground and lifting the voices and giving people voices to say what they need. And so as Doc has mentioned, I'm, with the myriad of organizations, sometimes I feel like I'm having to put on my different hats, but I'm always being me in everything that I do. And so I have consulting contracts with EDF Action. I'm the Good Trouble campaigner with Hip Hop Caucus. And around here, they joke and call me Olivia Pope because I'm the fixer in Fort Valley. For about 8 years, I've been just trying to get I'll say since 2018, since I met Chandra and since I met Doc. I have, just been trying to get the word climate sustainability, solar in people's mouths here and just making that commonality to let people know. And so some of that is finally paying off here in Fort Valley. We have a unique situation where we have a elected utility commission, and that's only one elected utility commission in the state of Georgia. Previously, there were several, but because there was some greed going on, they switched that from elected to appointed. And so in meeting some of our sisters here, like Michelle Moore, that is part of our family, and having some conversations, I've been able to research, and it places Fort Valley in a very unique position. Most times when you have these utility-based commissions, they go into these 100-year contracts with MEAG, who are the utility brokers, and this happens all over the United States when they're municipal led. And so once you have an elected commission, you can get those commissioners to decide to use another energy source and take them to court. And in the past, they've been able to get those 100-year contracts knocked down to 50 years. So that brings us back to solar, where Fort Valley, Georgia, Fort Valley State has a solar farm. We're seeing solar farms pop up all around Georgia. When you go into these rural communities, if I just go 12 miles away from my house, I can see 2 solar farms. The state of Georgia, Brian Kemp has purchased an 1,100-acre mega site in Fort Valley that they're being very secretive about. But because I can maneuver in those rooms, I know that they are trying to bring a solar company to Fort Valley. And so it is important and vital that the Harambee House brings Solar 101 to Fort Valley, Georgia in 2023. In speaking with some of the elected utility commissioners that I formed relationships with and vetted, they are also considering purchasing a solar farm for Fort Valley Utility to make that transition. So it has just been a fight here just to get them to pledge to be a renewable city, but they actually have it on their mind now. And so since Fort Valley, Georgia is home of the HBCU, it aligns with the mission of the Harambee House. And we hope to partner with Fort Valley State and host some of these things. But we want to make sure that 20% at least of the 86% Black population in Fort Valley, Georgia has the certification necessary for this line of work. And this would bring economic stability. It would, of course, bring jobs. It would place people in line to open up their own businesses, and it would stop Fort Valley residents from dying from the remnants of, the infamous Superfund site that we have here with Woolfolk Chemicals. So this is my life's work. It's my mission. As soon as the Jackson, Mississippi issue occurred, because we view that as a civil rights issue, we were able, at the very least, to get no white rents is there. They still need those things. Been partnering with a in community that I would also like to introduce the Harambee House to, community Doing Good, and they are Black led, they're Pan-Africanist, and they are about the business, but just trying to see the forefront on that, because what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi, America's under a water crisis, period. And so it's just a matter of time of waiting to see who's next, because we know that they were not going to take the time to place good pipes in our neighborhoods. So it's just a matter of time, and we need to set precedents to get in front of that and do some calls to actions to make sure that pipes are changed out, fossil fuels, that we use more sustainable things, and that they need to set precedents and start making moves on this stuff within the next 10 years. We don't have time to keep waiting for just the political hokey pokey. And so, like Dr. Erica, I'm gonna shut up because I can talk.
Yes, I do have a lot of talkers on the line this morning, but that's okay because we have got to educate our communities. We've got to make them aware. And we've always got to make sure that we understand the links and the interconnections. And so that takes me right to Alicia Scott. I call her Lily, powerful woman. Come to us and talk a little bit about your perspective on community-based solutions. Tell us who you are, who you're working with at this point, and share your perspective with us.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. McLean, and good morning all. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, just can't see you.
Okay, yes, I am so well. I'm triple tasking this morning and I'm not really camera ready.
Okay, go ahead.
So my apologies, and I'm holding a little baby here right now. I have a brand new grandson. So good morning all. So one of the things that is huge this year that you all are all aware of is how philanthropy is claiming to want to be more equitable in getting money to the organizations that are actually doing the work. And so I'm Alicia Scott. I'm the state director for Georgia for the Energy Foundation, and I'm trying to hold philanthropy's feet to the fire on that. I love what you all were talking about, Dr. McLean, about getting a delegation of NGOs from the area to go to COP27. And I'll say that here on your recorded line. If you all get that together, I can find funding for it. So, and that's what I'm out here to do. I'm out here to get the funding to our people, to hold philanthropy's feet to the fire. They're doing some new things. They're taking some of us from the other side of the work, and they're putting us in those decision-making places so we can write some checks. And that is what we're trying to do. The days of Black folks advocating for Black folks and dying broke are over. We got to create some jobs. We've got to make this worthwhile. We've got to make sure that our people can do it without the stress of lack of economic mobility, because we need it. So we're going to take these folks' money and we're going to dole it out. And so if you all know of a group, a grassroots group, a new NGO cropping up, or if you have a project, some of you on the line, I have brought you into the Georgia grantee fold of the Energy Foundation. You know, you can reach out to me, text me and say, hey, we are trying to do XYZ. I was just at a meeting for the state directors with Energy Foundation staff this past week in DC. And I said, listen, Dr. McLean at Harambee House, you know, Dr. McLean, I'm your biggest cheerleader. I ran into Felicia Davis at a whole donor event, and we didn't even know, we had never met each other in person. And when she said her name and I said my name, we looked at each other and were sitting right next to each other. So, and we talked about COP27. So I tried to work with MacArthur. MacArthur was willing to give a couple of slots, Dr. McLean, to you, except there was a deadline of July 31st for their credentialed slots for names. The names had to be in. So, you know, reach out to me and tell me what I need to know, because not only do I represent the Energy Foundation with regards to funding you all's work, I'm connected to all the other funders who are in Georgia, and they come and they say, who should we be giving money to? Who do we need to connect to? And you all know, many of you all on this line didn't get your funding on a traditional funding cycle. We raise money all year long. So just keep reaching out to me. Tell me what's needed so that when I go to advocate for how much Energy Foundation is going to give to Georgia for 2023, I can say, listen, I got a group of NGOs that are trying to do this. And I've got a group of EJ organizations that need to do that. And then we want to send a delegation from the Southeast to COP28, COP29, whatever. So we need a pot of money to set aside for them. And that's easy. Once you get to this side of the work, you realize, oh, it's easy. They just ain't been doing it because they either don't know how to do it or they ain't wanted to do it. So one of the things I'm trying to change now is making it easy for folks to do the work. I'm not on the advocacy side and the community project side as much in an implementation phase, but I am trying to making sure that I stay connected with all of you to tell me what you need to get this work done. So I don't want this group, you know, I'd like to think that you all have an inside person now. And when you're looking for funding, reach out to me, because if I don't have it in my budget, I'm connected with all of the big funders who are constantly asking, who needs money? Who needs what? Where are people going? Which brings me to the next big thing on my list for 2023. There is $3 billion in the Inflation Reduction Act for environmental justice, community engagement alone. $3 billion just to put in the pockets so that y'all can actually go do the work. Not for anything technical. Now, they don't want you to come up with nothing innovative. They're just going to put $3 million on the ground just so you can talk to people. So we want to make sure that we're connecting all of you all with the resources and the budget line items that are coming down from the federal government. And they're finally, and I said, that's nobody but Dr. McClain and all her work years with NEJAC and WEJAC. They're finally making the connection of climate change and environmental justice communities. They have finally made the connection, and that was a resounding thing. We have expanded the EJ grantees in Georgia by 5. Now we have multiple environmental justice groups being funded in Georgia by the Energy Foundation, and a light bulb went off at our meeting last week. And so now they're going to go across the country into all the other regions and look for the environmental justice groups that we've been ignoring, because, you know, it was just a bunch of, I'm just going to be quite frank, it was just a bunch of disconnected white climate change scientists who thought that they knew who needed the money, thought that they understood what climate change was, and they really didn't make the connection between historical environmental racism, environmental justice groups, and this climate change crisis that we're in, because it's definitely a crisis. It's not just, we need more than climate action work right now. We need some climate resilience work. We need some education work. We need some get down into restorative justice work down in the community. So my goal for 2023 is to find out where our economic gaps lie in this work. And I'm staying connected to the people I work side by side with so that I can know what to take back and say, listen, I got $1 million shortfall for folks that want to go to COP, for folks that are trying to roll out community education programs, because only the community knows how to advocate and solve the problems that are plaguing the community. And my job now, hopefully this is our winning season, folks. My job is to try to pull that money into those areas and into those hard to reach places. The other thing I'm working on this year is providing staff development workshops for those of us that are doing it. You know, that's one of those budget items that I realized working on the other side. And, you know, Chandra's is my she may not know this yet, but I've been following her footsteps. She's been my mentee, my silent mentee for the past 5 years, and I'm so just so honored to be able to have worked with Chandra, and now I'm she was my predecessor in this role at Energy Foundation before I took this role on. And so thank you, Chandra, for pointing EF in the right direction. And then I'm just trying to take up the mantle and follow what you were doing. But one of the things that we are trying to make sure that we do is help grow your funding portfolios. Help to grow your funding portfolios, because here's what's happening. The person that puts on the prettiest show in some of these cities gets the most money. And then they sucked up all the air in the room and didn't leave anything on the table for people doing the real work. And so we're trying to solve that problem. Listen, whenever I see folks talking crazy, talking about Trump, talking about things that don't seem aligned with what the community is actually doing, I start channeling the spirit of Harriet Tubman. And depending on what they say next determines whether or not I grab my imaginary shotgun. And so that is what we're doing. I'm grabbing imaginary shotguns, and anybody that's disrupting the work down here, I'm going to make sure that these funders don't come into this area because somebody's putting on a pretty show, because someone's saying all the pretty words. They getting all the money and they're leaving all the people actually doing all the real work with nothing. So it's the winning season for those who've actually been laboring in the trenches for our people. And that is what I want to help usher in. So please reach out to me, any and all of you. If you are looking, even if you are not an EF grantee, please reach out to me. But those of you who are, please stay connected with me. Tell me what you're doing. We're fundraising. They're asking me all the time, what do y'all need? What do y'all need in Georgia? And so I'm here to hopefully help ease some of that economic anxiety around getting the work done. And I'm gonna hush and get off my soapbox right now. Thank you, Dr. McClain.
I love that soapbox, connecting community-based organizations, NGOs to the money. Often we are doing $5 million worth of work with $5. That's how Black women normally roll, as well as our counterparts, our Black men, and other people of color and indigenous communities. We're always boots on the ground. We're always in every place where we can be, trying to implement solutions that do work, trying to work on policy, trying to groom young people to participate at a level that is really needed, trying to ensure that there's intergenerational work, that there is data that is being collected and analyzed and used to support our programs, our work that we want to get done. So we're really excited that you're in that position, Sister Alicia, and make no mistake, we will be calling on you for funds for getting us to COP 27, 28, 29, and 30 and on, because it is essential that our local voice is integrated at the international level. It is essential, as Ralph Bunche told us, and Malcolm X said, we have got to link at the international level to put our issues and our ideas and solutions front and center in the international arena. No longer can we keep it a secret in Savannah, Atlanta, Augusta, Fort Valley, Brunswick, but we've got to tell our stories around the globe, because many countries in Africa, in Central and Latin America, the Caribbean, they are suffering just like the coastal cities here in America. And so we've got to make that link. Harambee, we've got to pull together. And so we're going to move over to Augusta/Aiken, South Carolina, with the phenomenal leader, Reverend Brendilyn Jenkins Bozeman. I know her as BJ, and she said, oh no, baby, that's BJB. So Reverend BJB, who is one of the phenomenal leaders on the ground, who a long time ago saw it not robbery to get involved at the international level. She has participated in